There are places in North America where locals won't hunt, not because the land is empty, but because something knows when you're there. Hunters describe hearing their names spoken from the trees, not shouted, not whispered, but just not right, like a voice trying to remember how a human sounds. Campers report footsteps circling their tents at night, slow, deliberate, never coming closer, never walking away. Expedition journals describe tall figures moving through frozen forests, bodies too thin to be alive, standing against the wind watching without blinking. And across centuries, one rule survives every story. If you hear it calling you, don't answer. Because the moment it does, it means it's already been watching. And once it notices you, you don't come back the same. This isn't folklore. These are accounts written down, entered into court records, and studied in medical files. Real people, real names, and a presence that thrives when humans are at their weakest. Cold, isolated, and hungry. This, my friends, is the Wendigo. Long before maps, before trails, before radios or satellite phones, indigenous nations across the northern forests warned that winter woods weren't empty. They were inhabited, not by animals, not by ghosts, but by something that learned humans through hunger. Is it supernatural? Maybe. Ancient creature? Perhaps. But one thing is certain, it's out there if you believe it or not. Descriptions passed down for generations remain disturbingly consistent. Extremely tall, skeletal proportions stretched too far, sunken eyes, the smell of decay, and a voice that imitates humans, poorly. The Wendigo wasn't said to chase prey. It waits, it lurks, then it appears when people are their weakest. Cold, isolated, hungry. Going back to the 1600s, a French Jesuit missionary, Jules Allouez, recorded warnings from Algonquin guides who refused to enter certain winter territories. They didn't describe a monster. They described a presence, something that followed from a distance, something that punished desperation. Allouez wrote not as a storyteller, but as a man documenting logistical danger. Routes avoided, journeys delayed, regions abandoned in winter. And then, 2 centuries later, fur trappers echoed the same fear. In the 1800s, trappers wrote about encountering what they called starving giants, figures seen at a distance, vanishing when approached. Tall, emaciated beings fading into the night's shadows. And by the early 1900s, logging camps across Canada reported men disappearing after hearing voices calling them outside at night. No tracks, no struggle, just disappeared into the forest. One horrific event happened in 1879. A Cree trapper known as Swift Runner, also called Ka Kisi Kutchin, was arrested in Alberta, Canada. During a brutal winter, he killed and consumed his own family. When questioned, Swift Runner didn't claim madness. He claimed possession. He told authorities he had been overtaken by the Wendigo. He was possessed, was entranced, and did the unthinkable. Missionaries and doctors documented his terror of hunger, his belief that something else had taken control. Swift Runner was executed. But his case didn't end the fear. It legitimized it. Because for the first time, Wendigo belief appeared not in legend, but in colonial court records. Another infamous account that was synonymous with the Wendigo happened in northern Ontario, Canada. A man named Jack Fiddler, an Ojibwe shaman, claimed to have killed more than a dozen Wendigos, not out of malice, out of protection. Jack Fiddler believed that once someone crossed a certain line, then starvation turned into something else. The Wendigo didn't kill them. It moved in. In 1907, Canadian authorities arrested Jack Fiddler and his brother Joseph Fiddler for killing a man believed to be transforming. The court transcripts didn't dismiss the belief. They recorded it. Jack Fiddler died in jail before trial, likely by suicide. Joseph Fiddler was convicted, and with that, the state declared the Wendigo unreal. But the people who lived there never stopped watching the trees. Would you stop? Here's where the legend stops being a monster story. The Wendigo doesn't hunt flesh. It feeds on consumption, greed, desperation, hunger. The moment survival becomes something far more darker, the isolation becomes pinnacle. The cold numbs the body and mind. Starvation starts to kick in, and then the urge to feed overwhelms the mind, bringing you into a dark, dark place. The legend says once cannibalism occurs, even to survive, the body lives, the mind fractures, and something else takes over. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, doctors began documenting something terrifying. Patients who had not committed cannibalism, but were convinced they would. They reported nightmares of tall figures watching them, disgust toward normal food, fear of mirrors, obsession with hunger that didn't feel like hunger, like an insatiable appetite that would consume them from within. Some begged to be restrained, others begged to be killed. Psychiatrists later labeled it Wendigo Psychosis. One of them, Dr. Morton Tyker, documented these cases as culture-bound syndromes. But the communities didn't call it illness, they called it a warning. Because when belief in the Wendigo faded, so did the diagnoses. Which leaves one question no one likes answering. Did the sickness disappear, or did the thing that was causing it stop being named? Today, the Wendigo hasn't vanished. It's been rebranded. Some call it a crawler, some call it a skinwalker, some refuse to name it at all. But the reports remain unchanged. Tall figures in snow, voices calling from just beyond firelight, footprints that abruptly end, noises from beyond the tree lines, and people who return from expeditions withdrawn, unwilling to talk, convinced something followed them home. And the advice from locals is always the same. Don't hike alone. Don't follow voices. Don't stay out after dark in winter woods. Because some things don't chase you. They wait for you to be isolated. Wendigo psychosis might be psychological. It might be cultural. It might be evolutionary fear. But no explanation erases this. For over 400 years, people across the same forests feared the same thing, under the same conditions: cold, isolation, hunger. And whether the Wendigo is a spirit, a predator, or something that uses the human mind as a doorway, the forest still has rules. And one of them is simple. If you feel watched, you probably are. The feeling of dread, the intense feeling to keep looking over your shoulder, or that intense gut feeling, something is not right. Then trust your instincts and avoid not wandering alone. Don't answer voices, and don't stay too long in places where hunger walks upright. Because some legends don't want belief, they want opportunity.